MK. Hi, Dwighty. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, we got a couple minutes. So these are the stories that I'm going to be reading today. Betty Tales. Okay. And Oscar and Klaus, The Search for Bigfoot. All right, we got a couple minutes. Magic. Hello, Magic. How's the Magic Boy? How's Magic? Magic has decided he wants to go into the office. Cootie. Cootie. You don't really see Cutie out here too much, do you? She's usually...
No, she's out here more than she used to be.
Oh, okay.
When I first moved here, she was not out here hardly ever.
Yeah.
It was time to feed her, and I could never find her.
Yeah.
Then she figured out that if she comes out here and kind of gets in people's faces and follows them all over the rescue center, we'll feed her.
Alright guys, it is 9 o'clock. So, the first book I'm going to read here is Betty Tales.
Good night, everybody. See you
Good night.
Friday.
The true story of a brave bobblehead cat. Now, before I get into the book, one of the reasons we're reading this book is in memory of Mary. You guys know that Mary was one of our CH cats, or a bobblehead cat, who was adopted by Elizabeth, and Mary passed away over the weekend. Mary, if you guys remember when Mary first came, I think, was it with Jersey?
I think so.
Yes, and I think they were in some kind of a hoarding situation in New York or New Jersey, and Mary basically was protecting Jersey. So Mary, was a really big part, of the CH cats here. So Again, this is in memory of Mary. And if I come back next week, next Wednesday, I might read another bobblehead book, but I still have to get it. So, all right. So let me put my glasses on, and here we go. The true story of a brave bobblehead cat. Introduction. Betty is a disabled cat who has taught our family wonderful lessons. She taught us that disabilities don't define who a person is or what he or she can accomplish. I hope you enjoy reading about Betty and her mischievous ways, and you learn, as we did, that animals and people with disabilities are able to do amazing things, or as Jackie would say, amazable things, just like you can. All right. When we first met Betty, our family had 2 children, a dog, 2 cats, a ferret, 2 birds, and a dwarf hamster named Thor the Assassin. I came home from work one day to find my 13-year-old daughter, Emily, waiting for me. Mom, she said, wringing her hands, I need to show you something. Okay, I said. I wonder what had made her so nervous. It's out on the patio. I just want to take care of it until we can find it a good home, she said. I followed her into the screened room. Emily pointed and I peered over the side of the laundry basket. In the corner of the basket was a tiny ball of a softly meowing black fluff. She was the tiniest kitten I have ever seen. She could fit in the palm of my hand. Her eyes looked confused. She was so weak her little head bobbed up and down. I was walking home from school, Emily said. The construction workers down the block called me over to show me. They found her in the street. She was really dirty and scared. They couldn't take her home. Um, I brought her home to save her, Mom. I gave her a bath. I'm going to call her Betty. Look at her beautiful eyes. Emily stopped to see what I would say. When I didn't answer right away, Emily added, we can give her away after she gets bigger. Hi, Hannah Ben. So here's the little illustrations. There we go. I looked at my little daughter. Her big blue eyes were peeking at me from under her blonde hair. She looked from the kitten to me hopefully. Sighing, I nodded and said, yes, we'll have to keep her for a little bit. I went inside to call our veterinarian to find out how to take care of a kitten that tiny. The veterinarian told us how to feed her. We didn't have the right food, so we went to the pet store for bottles and formula. The poor little kitten was so hungry she attacked the bottle. We laughed as her little paws grabbed it and held on tightly. As the weeks passed and we took care of her, it grew harder and harder to think of giving her away to another family. We were still determined to find her a good home as soon as she was old enough. There was a problem, though. We were starting to love her. On her first vet visit, Betty seemed to be just like every other kitten. She passed with flying colors. At home, we giggled at her little kitten steps as she wobbled around the house. A few weeks later, we took Betty for her second visit to the vet. The doctor watched as Betty wobbled around the table and then turned to me and said, I'm sorry, but Betty is a bobblehead cat. What is that? I asked. Well, when the mother cat is sick, it can damage the kitten. Her brain didn't grow as much as it should. It doesn't tell her muscles what to do very well, so she can't use them like most cats. Some bobblehead cats can barely walk. Betty is actually lucky. She won't get any better, but she shouldn't get any worse. She'll always walk with a wobble like that, and she'll never be very big, unlike Derecho. So here's the picture of Betty drinking the milk bottle. There's the picture of the vet with Betty. Alrighty, next page. Betty had been a feral cat. Feral cats are wild cats with no home other than in the woods. They live by hunting smaller animals and sometimes, if they are lucky, by the kindness of humans. Feral cats don't have regular vet visits and shots to protect them from diseases. Betty's family lived in the woods near our house until construction workers started building there. I felt sad because I realized it would be hard to find a home for her. Oh, what was that? I better keep that. I turned from the doctor to look at the little black kitten. Mom, we have to keep her now, Emily said. We just have to. Yes, Em, I said slowly. It wouldn't be right to give her away now. The months passed, and as Betty grew, she surprised us with her determination to do things her way. Betty walked oddly with both back legs stretched out on either side of her skinny little body to give her some support. She still lost her balance and fell on her side a lot. She always got a look on her face that said, I meant to do that, and then just got up again. Oh, you're welcome, Dutchie. We lived in a 2-story house. The steps to the second floor were tall and carpeted. At first, we carried Betty up or down the stairs. We wanted her with us wherever we were in the house. It wasn't long, though, before Betty hissed and growled when we picked her up to travel the stairs. She insisted on rolling down. She would thump and bump her way to the first floor, then prance around at the bottom. Her attitude was, see, I knew I could do it. You didn't have to carry me. Oh, you're welcome, Ms. M. No problem. I'm glad you enjoy it. So here's our pictures. All right. That's the picture of Emily wanting to keep the kitty. And then here's a picture of Betty who wants to flop down on the steps. For the trip up the stairs, she dug her claws into the carpet. She pulled herself up all 2 flights, 1 step at a time. It was painful for us to watch. We wanted to help, but she was insistent and determined to do it her way. We had to let her. And look at Betty going up the steps. Now, those of you who were friends with Elizabeth on Facebook know the stories of Mary, how she liked to go up to up the steps, that they put baby gates up and things like that, but you can't really stop Mary. And then here's the other picture here. Sweetie and Garbo, our 2 older cats, like to perch on the dresser or bathroom counter. They peered down at Betty like she was in a zoo. They weren't too happy. Betty wanted to play all the time, and they didn't. They looked at me as if to ask how I could have let another cat live in our house. Betty made sure they knew she was really the cat in charge. They quickly learned that they could just jump up on things to get away from her, and did so often. Betty couldn't jump up to follow them. So here's the kitties on the dresser, and look, there's Betty. Every now and then, another cat dared to walk through our yard when Betty was at the window watching birds. Betty's tail puffed out. She jumped up to fight with her legs spread. We heard her hissing all over the house. It was a good thing she couldn't get outside. And look at the picture of the cat outside and Betty with the hiss. And look, do you see the little birds singing? Even though the ceiling fan was high above her, Betty was afraid of it and ducked her head whenever she walked into the room. Because Betty couldn't run like most cats, she hopped and jumped to get to safety under the coffee table. She must have thought the fan was a bird ready to swoop down and snatch her. She was more cautious than most other cats because she knew she couldn't get away quickly. That never stopped her from exploring, though. She was just careful about it. When I napped on the couch, Betty liked to climb under my legs. She poked her head out of the hole in my favorite blanket to keep an eye on that fan. She liked to spy on the other cats, too. And look at the picture of her with the fan. See, it's looking like a bird. When the weather turned cooler, I'd like to sit out front on the patio chairs and enjoy our little garden. If I sat still enough, birds came and played in the bird bath close to me. Betty wasn't sure she liked going outside. At first, she clung to my shirt with her claws. She ducked her head under my chin. After a while, Betty realized she was protected in my arms. Once she knew she was safe, she sat across my lap while I scratched her neck behind her ears. Betty watched everything that moved. When a breeze blew the leaves, she never knew where to look first. There were too many things moving. Her little nose would go up in the air to catch scents on the wind. If a blue jay came to the bird bath, Betty froze. She looked like she was planning to leap off my lap and grab that big old bird for dinner. And there's the picture of Betty with her mom outside. And you can see the bath with the bird in it. Once Betty was sitting on top of the chair at the front window watching the bird bath outside. It was full of sparrows splashing around in the bath like a public pool. A red-headed woodpecker perched on the side and watched. He looked like he was a lifeguard, protecting all the little birds. Betty's eyes never moved as she stared at all those birds. Her jaw moved up and down as if she had already caught one and was enjoying an afternoon snack. She would never be able to really catch one, but she liked acting as if she could. Oh, here's the picture of, and I'm always doing the wrong. All right. When it was cold, Betty liked to sleep on my bed, but she had strict rules. For example, I wasn't allowed to pick her up and put her on the bed. She had to claw her way up the side of the bed. Once up, she growled and stumbled over to the space I made for her by my knees. I was allowed to pet her once or twice. If I tried to pet her more than that, she growled again. She growled again and hissed. If I dared to turn over, sometimes she stayed. Other times she acted just like that was too much to bear, growling and complaining. Betty would head for the foot of the bed. I was not allowed to put her on the floor. She insisted on leaping off like a flying superhero. All right, let me just take a drink first. Betty has taught our family a lot about living with a disability. She has taught us that determination, persistence, and independence are very important. She has taught us to speak up for ourselves when we would rather not do something. She has taught us to be proud of what we could do and not to think too hard about the things we couldn't. She has taught us that even though her body doesn't work exactly like a cat's body is supposed to work, her brain and heart still do. Betty's older now. The doctor was right. She is still a little cat. But Betty is still very much the cat in charge and is still teaching us important lessons. And can you see that is the actual picture of Betty? She's an Inky. She looks a little like Lucy, huh? Pretty cool. Alright. So that's the end of Betty Tales. It's a very, very cute book. And I just want to make sure, if you're interested in purchasing this book, it is on Amazon. It's a very, very cute book. I know we've read this here many times, and yeah, just like Mary, Betty likes to crawl up and not use the ramp. So, as you guys know, and I don't see the count here, but somebody said there was close to 500 people on. I don't really see it. I don't see the counts. But we have a lot of different CH cats here. Now, bobblehead cats are CH cats, CH cerebellar hypoplasia, which is the official name of bobblehead cats, or wobbly cats as we sometimes hear them. So, so that's the Betty Tales, and now I'm going to read you Oscar and Klaus, The Search for Bigfoot. And those of you probably are aware of Oscar the blind cat. Oscar the blind cat actually passed away a couple years ago, but his spirit lives on, and obviously there's some books that about Oscar, and Oscar's I'm sorry, did I read it wrong? Okay, 500 likes since 200. Okay, well then that'll work. All right, so 194. Hey, that's fine. So Klaus is actually Oscar's little friend that lives with them. Or Klaus is still alive. Klaus is 20 years old now. Klaus actually lives in Seattle, and one of the things about Klaus is he's got an issue with one ear. One ear doesn't go up, so you can always tell Klaus because he only has one ear up. So, you're welcome, DeWitty. So I'm going to actually read you The Search for Bigfoot. And the other thing about this book, The Search for Bigfoot, it's got some really, really nice artwork to it. So if you're not sure about Oscar the blind cat, there's a lot written about him. He was a big internet star as well. So I even got Oscar and Klaus's paw prints here. And also Oscar's mommy and daddy also autographed it for me. Alright. Oh boy, this is the life Klaus would gloat each time he stuffed a sardine down his throat. Klaus loved his cozy home in the city. He was nothing less than a spoiled kitty. He had food round the clock, 9 napping spaces, plus 4 litter boxes in various places. Don't eat too much, Oscar warned as he climbed. Being sick far from home is not a good time. Then, reaching the perch 6 feet off the floor, he climbed back down and did it once more. Tomorrow's the big day, and we must feel good. We're going camping in Mossy Wood. So, just wanted to show you this because it's a nice little panoramic view. So, on this side here, you can see Klaus eating a sardine, and on the other side, you can see Oscar on his cat tower. So, all right. So let's go to the next page. And like I said, the illustrations are wonderful. And I actually have another Oscar Klaus book I might read next week. It depends. The car was loaded and off they drove, away from the city, down long winding roads. The trees grew bigger, the grasses more wild, and Oscar couldn't help but smile. Each new smell and every odd sound meant that adventure was soon to be found. And this is such a cool little picture, but look at the two cats in the back. All right. The tents were pitched by the crackling fire as shadows danced higher and higher. They heard the legend of Bigfoot that night, and it gave Klaus a most awful fright. When nighttime falls, he steps from his lair on two huge feet, each covered with hair. Like a grizzly bear, he stands tall and mean, but sly old Bigfoot is really rarely seen. And all who seek this fearsome creature will never ever forget their adventure. So we got a couple pictures here. We got the little tents here. Unfortunately, everything is backwards here, so you have to kind of go the opposite way. But here's the nice little picture of Oscar and Klaus enjoying the campfire. And look, there's a big mysterious creature in the back. You're welcome, Nizma. Oscar could not fall asleep in his tent. I can find Bigfoot just by his scent. Hey, Klaus, are you awake? I'm sleeping, Klaus mumbled, for goodness sake. You're coming with me, Oscar insisted. You have no choice. He was very persistent. Oscar rolled over and covered his head, but Oscar pulled him straight out from the bed, out of the tent and onto the grass. Let's get moving. Adventure at last. That's a really darling picture. I just love the illustrations of this book. They walked for a while, sometimes they jog, until they reached an old hollow log. In that spot, the path simply ended. Let's go back to the camp, Klaus demanded. We can't stop now. Let's just crawl through. Oscar's excitement grew and grew. But it's so dark, Klaus's voice quivered. He was so scared his whole body shivered. Yet despite all his protests and groans, Klaus followed his pal into the unknown. Oscar's words echoed inside of the tree. The darkness simply does not bother me. Does not bother me. Does not bother me. Does not bother me. It would be nice if I could hold it right up. On the other side, they found rushing water, and swimming on top a curious otter. Hello, Oscar yelled. Will you help us across? The otter swam closer and said, Sure thing, boss. Just hop on my back and be sure to hang on. The stream isn't wide, but the current is strong. No, thank you, cried Klaus. I can do it my way. I was swim team co-captain back in the day. Now I remember why I quit the team. A wet Klaus shivered in a silver moonbeam. Perched high on a branch sat a serious owl, her big eyes squinting, beak bent in a scowl. She asked, "Where is it that you all are headed?" "To find Bigfoot," Oscar laughed as he said it. The Oscar screeched, "I hear he's a brute. Is he even real? I don't give a hoot." Oscar replied, "Why not join our quest? It could be good for you to come out of your nest." The owl agreed and fluffed her gray feathers, and the four made a pact to stick close together. So here's Klaus, all shivered and wet. And then, of course, here's Oscar talking to the owl, and here's his otter friend. Oops, almost went too fast. All right. The owl flew high to find a clear path. The others ran. Klaus was soon out of breath. A murky haze closed in from each side, and Oscar's nose was their only guide. Winding through the trees and over the old logs, they kept moving deeper in spite of the fog. Kraus cried out from the back with a fuss, "It feels like something is following us." Then they heard a snap, followed by a rustle. So here's the picture of the adventure team. And then here's a picture of the snap and the rustle. Oscar paused. I sensed something near. A mysterious figure began to appear. "Who goes there?" the nervous otter said. The puzzled owl just scratched her head. Klaus proclaimed, "It must be a bug." "Actually, I'm a banana slug," the stranger explained, and then added more. "For quite some time I watched you four. You're all clearly lost and walking in circles. I'm happy to help, though I'm slow as a turtle. I know all the shortcuts, so let's come right along to Bigfoot's house. Let's sing a song." Okay. Oh. So here's the four of them, and now they have met a banana slug. So the banana slug is now joining them with the quest. As the fog grew thicker and thicker, the new friends sang to help stick together. We stomp our paws, we shake our tails, to Bigfoot's house we make the trail. Right then, left, right, we laugh and sing and march all night. There's room for all, fast or slow, we make the trail as we go. Right then, left, right, through foggy woods we march all night. And here's the picture of them through the foggy woods. Let's see if I can get up on that. When they finished singing the final chorus, strange sounds filled the nighttime forest. Crickets chirped, frogs croaked. "This must be the spot," the banana slug spoke. That's when Klaus really lost his cool. "What have I done? I've been such a fool to believe that Bigfoot could truly exist, and now we're lost in this forest mist. I wish I was back in our warm, safe camp with my sleeping bag and handy lamp, and the yummy snacks that I love so much in human hands. I miss their touch. The worst part, no one is petting me." Klaus rubbed up on a big, hairy tree. And there's Klaus with the tree. a sneeze thundered forth from a huge mouth and nose. Bigfoot cleared the fog. The five friends just froze. There's the five friends, and there's Bigfoot sneezing. Pardon me, Bigfoot sniffled. He felt kind of silly. I'm allergic to cats, he said, picking a lily. His soothing, kind voice put the whole gang at ease as the smell of baked goodies blew in the breeze. Won't you all join me in my humble home? No one ever visits. I'm always alone. Just follow me. It's not far at all. I live right behind that blue waterfall. So here is Bigfoot showing them where he lives. I was wondering if that was, what's that? What's, oh, you know, what's, never mind. All right. The home was filled with all sorts of treasure, which Bigfoot displayed with great care and pleasure. Framed pictures, glass bottles, an old cookie tin, jazz record collections, and recycling bin. Growl. Klaus's belly made that old owl jump back. Bigfoot chimed in. Shall we have a small snack? You see Klaus jumping up on the thing. Okay. Try my seasoned pine nuts, gooseberry popovers, and mushroom sliders garnished with clovers, or crabapple scones with raccoon milk brie. You wouldn't believe, but it's all gluten-free. And the whistling kettle you hear and see is filled with delicious nettle tea. They ate by the bushel, they drank by the gallon. All were amazed by Bigfoot's talent. He was a hairy, tall, and rare indeed, and a generous soul, they all agreed. The new friends were laughing. They abandoned all care. Klaus stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The birds were chirping. The bees were buzzing. The breeze was so warm, and the fog was gone. That's when Klaus noticed the sun. The sun! The sun! The sun is up! Klaus shouted with panic. We have to get back or we'll never get home. Please help us, Bigfoot. We can't make it alone. And look at this big picture of Klaus. Klaus is very upset. Oscar and Klaus rode on Bigfoot's broad shoulders and raced down the hill like a tumbling boulder. Crunch past the mossy, towering pines. Stomp over stumps tangled with vines. Splash through the stream that made their fur damp. At last, to the old log and back to the camp. It feels like we're flying, Oscar declared, but Klaus just held on, a little bit scared. So, kind of some cool pictures here. And then look at Bigfoot. Can you see it says Squatch you got cooking on his... So you see Oscar and Klaus riding on his shoulders. Of course, the question I have is, where's the rest of the adventure band? Hooray, we made it, and just by a whisker, said Oscar to Klaus and Klaus to Oscar. But just as they dozed off in their cozy, warm bed, they heard a commotion, and a stern voice said, It's time to head home, and you two are still snoring." He was unaware of their nighttime exploring. "And why are you covered in all of that crud? Your fur is a mess, paws crusty with mud." Oscar nudged Klaus, and it made them both giggle. They were laughing so hard they were starting to wiggle. Yeah. There's Oscar and Klaus, and then there's their mom and dad getting ready to go home. Oscar and Klaus left with the wild memories of searching for Bigfoot among mossy trees, with their new forest friends who helped them along, and the joy that they shared in singing a song. From the dread of being lost in the foggy woods to the delight of Bigfoot's delicious baked goods. Now Klaus can finally return to his leisure while Oscar dreams of their next big adventure. So there they are, Oscar and Klaus going back home to the big city. And if you look at this, you can actually see that there's the otter, there's Bigfoot, there's the owl. I don't know where the slug is. Yeah, there's the slug right there. So originally on Oscar and Klaus's website, when they were proposing this book, they had a Kickstarter so that they can raise the money for it. And I was actually one of the folks who donated so that I could get this book. And I don't know if I had to get extra for this, but we have a whole bunch of children's books because, you know, Bonnie was a teacher. But let me just kind of show you, maybe this is easier if I show you the cover. And I'll read some of this too. So we have a real picture of Oscar and Klaus, and then we have Oscar and Klaus's Adventure Society. I have that patch too. They sent that to me. So, and then there's about the author. And Mick Slidowski is actually Oscar and Klaus's daddy. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Tweety. Thank you, DeWitty, Dutchy, everybody. Thank you. Billy P. Longfellow, the delightful voice of a bearded. Well, I try to make it a little interesting with different voices. You know, I don't know if what was the movie with that was hello, voiced by Dudley Moore, Milo and Otis. You know, I loved how Dudley Moore, when he would tell the story. Did somebody escape? Yeah. So Mick Slidowski lives in Seattle, Washington, with his wife Bethany and their two cats, Oscar and Klaus. Like I was telling you, Oscar unfortunately passed away. They have a new blind cat named Luna. So Mick has a passion for photography, music, outdoor exploration, and wildlife conservation. He and Bethany strongly advocate special needs pet adoption and are always thrilled to hear from people who are encouraged to adopt a special needs pet as a result of learning Oscar's story. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Oscar and Klaus are real cats who share their real-life adventures every day with friends from all over the world. Oscar was born completely blind, and Klaus was rescued from a rough life as a stray. Together they've shown the world that there's no limit to the thrill and wonder of life. All you need is the power of friendship and your imagination. So what I think I'm going to do, yeah, I saw Hopi. Hopi, a little bugger. There's actually a second book about Oscar and Klaus going to the moon, and they have Oscar and Klaus in astronaut suits. I have that book as well, and my thinking is that I probably will read that next week along with another bobblehead book, another Wobbly Cat book. So my thinking is that's what I'll read next week. I was going to see if I can find the stories of some of the cats that had been adopted at FFRC, but I could not find it. So at some point, you know, we will try to tell you some of those stories. Gallant story is in there. Magic story is in there. You know, so it's kind of cool. Let me just check what this says. Oh, I wonder why that happened. Anyway, so I am actually glad to do this. I think it's a good time to read you some stories. I know, you know, we're all kind of bored. You know, it gets me out of the house for a little bit, and you know, just guys, just stay inside. Be very careful because you know, this is a very insidious virus that's going around, and you know, you never don't know if you got it. If you're going to be one of those people who just gets minor symptoms, or are you going to be the person who's going to need a ventilator? Because I mean, boy, it does a lot of damage to your lungs, and that's scary. So, you know, if you have asthma or COPD and you get this, you know, it's very dangerous. And I know. Thank you, Dutchie. Thank you, Tweety. I'm glad that you like them. But you know, it's funny because I haven't read the Oscar and Klaus book since I got it. That's a really, really good, cute little story, especially how everything rhymes. You know, it actually reminds me a little with the Grinch a little bit. How, you know, when you everything kind of rhymes, and you know, oh, here comes Asha. Bonnie's doing good. Bonnie has not been out of the house in probably 3 weeks now. I think she's going a little stir crazy, but she obviously has some risk factors, so we have to make sure that she's okay. Gallant's doing good. I took some pictures today of Gallant because he was in my little office space, and he was looking out the window, and one of the things in the office space, you know, we don't have any grass yet, so everything is all dirt outside, but there's a lot of squirrels, and the cats love to look out the window and look at the squirrels. Yeah, I have to watch that movie too, DeWitty. So yeah, it's been fun. Asha. You know, there's some food up here that nobody's eating. Anybody want some food? Here, I'll put it here. So I am going to get going. I just left Jackie some things. I had a whole bunch of plates like this or bowls like this, because you guys know that we had a CH cat that unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. So I gave Jackie all of mine, and I also had some of the food for sick kitties in cans. So I certainly will, Ms. M. Gallon is Gallant. Let me tell you a little bit about Gallant. He has a naughty streak. And what's been happening is, hi Stephen, how are you? Thank you, Discats. Gallant has been jumping up on the counter, jumping up on the stove, and when I went out, because we ordered some groceries, and we had them put into the garage. So I closed the garage door, opened up the door, and Gallant just zooms right out into the garage. He's a naughty boy sometimes. So there's Asha. Asha! Hi, Asha. How you doing? How you doing, Asha? Did you get something to eat? Did you get something to eat? So those of you and told the story about the guy cutting in line and said, if you don't let me go to the front of the line, I can't. Yeah, it's funny. I can't use my key and let you all in. That's funny. Where am I? Nice distraction. Yeah, this is still good. I appreciate that, Ms. M. It happened a couple years ago. You know, unfortunately, I think he had a little bit more than CH, because when we first got him, he could walk a little bit. You know, he just had some problems with his back legs, but he completely lost the ability to walk. He had to be carried everywhere. So that's why you guys know that, for cerebellar hyperplasia, it doesn't get worse. So that's why we thought that something else was going on. And there were a couple times that we had some near misses. And then the one day, he always slept in our bed. We had a cat bed, and we kind of lined it so that if he has an accident, we could just throw the linens into the washer. But one day when we woke up, we found him and he was passed away. So unfortunately, that stuff happens. But this is a cat that would not have had any shot at life if he wasn't adopted. So we gave him as much as we could. I know that I struggled with bathing him if he had an accident, because he would have some problems soiling himself, and I would try to give him a bath, and he did not like them. He was terrified of them. But that's all right, little Grayson, always in our hearts. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if my brother's watching. My brother lives in North Jersey, and as you guys know, North Jersey is getting hammered. And Stephen S., who's on here too, he lives in New York, and we all know that New York is just getting clobbered right now. It's a scary time. Defiance County here has 6 confirmed cases. So, wasn't it like a couple weeks ago where we were saying, oh, there's still a couple states that don't have any confirmed cases. Now, if you look at the grid, there's a couple states that don't have any deaths. So, Mimi Crawford. Hello, Mimi Crawford. So I am actually going to stop at the store and see if I could pick a couple things up. Who was that? Oh, it's Jessie. Speaking of 20 years old, there's Jessie Cat. I was telling you that Klaus is 20 years old. Well, here's Jessie, who I believe is 20. I don't think she's 21 yet. Jessie! Jessie! There's a lot of cats here I don't recognize. So that's it for story time for tonight. I am going to get going, and thank you for tuning in. And it has certainly been my pleasure. So I will see everybody a little bit later. Have a good day, everybody. Now it's off to the supermarket. Let me make sure I have my list. Yep. Alrighty. Bye-bye.